Most kidney failure does not announce itself with pain. It does not scream for attention with acute symptoms or warning signs that you can feel in your bones. By the time a person finally notices something is wrong, by the time the fatigue sets in or the swelling appears in the ankles, they have often already lost more than half of their total kidney function. This is the silent tragedy of modern health. The scary part, the part that keeps physicians awake at night, is that this damage usually begins years, sometimes decades earlier. It starts with habits that feel completely normal, habits that seem entirely harmless, habits that millions of people engage in every single day without a second thought. Over the last several decades working in emergency medicine and internal research, I have watched countless individuals arrive at the hospital with advanced kidney problems that could have been entirely prevented. What fascinates me and what should concern you is not just the medical complexity of renal failure, but the patterns. We see the same behaviors, the same dangerous misconceptions, and the same slow, insidious accumulation of damage that nobody talks about until it is far too late. Today, we are going to change that narrative. What I want to share with you is a synthesis of what I have learned over years of clinical practice, combined with the latest groundbreaking research from leading nephrologists, cardiologists, and metabolic scientists around the world. My goal is to teach you something profound that might help you live longer, live more vibrantly, and protect one of your body's most critical organs. Let us begin by understanding why kidney damage is so particularly sneaky. You possess approximately 1 million tiny, intricate filtering units in each kidney called nephrons. These structures are remarkably resilient, designed by evolution to withstand significant stress. In fact, you can lose 60 to 70% of your total kidney function before you experience a single noticeable symptom. While this reserve capacity is brilliant for survival in a crisis, in our modern environment, it creates a dangerous blind spot. People assume everything is okay because they feel fine. They wake up, go to work, exercise, and eat, feeling perfectly healthy, while their kidneys are actually quietly deteriorating behind the scenes. This is the illusion of health. In clinical settings, when we check kidney function in the vast majority of medical patients, especially those over the age of 50, it has become increasingly uncommon to find completely normal kidney function on a blood test. The markers are subtly shifting, indicating a slow decline that goes unnoticed. Today, I am going to walk you through 6 common things that gradually damage these vital organs. More importantly, I will explain exactly what is happening at a physiological level inside your body, drawing on insights from renowned experts like Dr. Peter Attia, Dr. Jason Fung, and the extensive archives of the National Kidney Foundation. And if you stay with me until number 4, I will debunk one of the most pervasive myths about salt and sodium that even many doctors get wrong, a myth that has confused patients for generations. Let us dive immediately into the first item on our list, which is probably the most unexpected for many people. It is something sitting in bathroom cabinets and medicine drawers across the globe right now: anti-inflammatory painkillers. We are talking about non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or NSAIDs. This includes common medications like ibuprofen, naproxen, and diclofenac. These drugs are incredibly common. If you have a headache, you reach for ibuprofen. If you have back pain from sitting at a desk all day, you take ibuprofen. If you are sore after a workout at the gym, people pop ibuprofen every day as a preventative measure. Speaking personally, and I know many of you feel the same, sometimes acetaminophen or paracetamol simply does not work for certain types of inflammation. Only an NSAID seems to provide relief. They are effective, accessible, and seemingly safe. However, the thing is, your kidneys rely on a delicate, precise balance of chemicals called prostaglandins to maintain their blood flow. These prostaglandins are local hormones that tell the small arteries feeding your kidney filters to stay dilated, keeping pressure stable and filtration running smoothly. They are the guardians of renal blood flow. But when you take NSAIDs like naproxen or ibuprofen, you are blocking the enzymes known as COX-1 and COX-2 that produce these protective prostaglandins. The result is immediate and mechanical. Those arteries constrict, blood flow to the kidneys drops significantly, and the filtration rate decreases. For most healthy people taking an occasional dose for a day or two, this is not a catastrophic problem. The kidneys are resilient enough to recover quickly once the drug clears your system. Do not be overly concerned if you took a pill yesterday, but the danger arises when you combine chronic NSAID use with dehydration, or if you take them regularly for more than a week at a time, or if you are older, or if you already have high blood pressure. In these scenarios, you are creating the perfect storm for an acute kidney injury that can turn into chronic damage. What makes this truly dangerous is a phenomenon we call the triple whammy in emergency medicine and nephrology. This term was popularized by researchers studying drug interactions in the elderly. The triple whammy occurs when someone combines NSAIDs like ibuprofen with blood pressure medications, specifically ACE inhibitors or ARBs, and also takes diuretics, commonly known as water tablets. Each one of these medications individually affects kidney blood flow in a specific way. The diuretic reduces blood volume. The ACE inhibitor dilates the outgoing vessel of the kidney filter. The NSAID constricts the incoming vessel. When taken together, they collapse the pressure gradient needed for filtration. We see patients taking this combination of medication all the time, often without realizing the interaction. It is honestly so common, it is terrifying. When this happens, the kidneys become ischemic. They become starved of oxygen and nutrients. Repeated episodes of this ischemia lead to permanent scarring, a process known as interstitial fibrosis. Once that scar tissue forms, it does not go away. The filtering unit is dead. As Dr. Michael Mosley and other health investigators have pointed out in their documentaries, the cumulative effect of years of casual NSAID use can shave years off your kidney lifespan. The message here is not to never take painkillers, but to respect their power. Use the lowest effective dose for the shortest possible time and never, ever combine them with dehydration or other kidney-stressing medications without consulting your physician. Moving on to number 2, which is statistically the leading cause of kidney disease worldwide, high blood pressure or hypertension. Now, what many people do not realize is that hypertension does not just reflect kidney damage. It actively causes it. It is a shuang-shang relationship, a vicious cycle of destruction. Your kidneys are high-pressure filtration systems by design. Blood enters the kidneys under significant force to push fluid and waste through those tiny filters, the glomeruli that I mentioned earlier. This pressure is necessary to clean your blood. However, when you have chronic high blood pressure, you are essentially forcing too much pressure through these delicate structures. Imagine a garden hose. If you turn the water on full blast and keep it there forever, the hose will eventually weaken, bulge, and burst. Something similar happens inside your kidneys. The walls of the glomeruli, these microscopic filtering units, start to thicken and scar in response to the excessive force. We call this condition glomerulosclerosis. As the scarring progresses, the filters become leaky. Proteins that should stay in your bloodstream, specifically albumin, begin leaking into your urine. This proteinuria is often the first sign that the dam is breaking. Here is where the situation gets even worse. Each damaged nephron dies off and stops working. The remaining healthy nephrons then have to work harder to compensate for the loss. They start filtering more blood at even higher pressures to maintain the body's cleanliness. This compensatory mechanism accelerates their own decline. It creates a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. Damaged kidneys cannot regulate blood pressure properly because they are a central part of the hormonal system that controls it. Poor regulation leads to higher blood pressure, which causes more kidney damage, which worsens blood pressure control even more. Round and round it goes, faster and faster until the system fails. According to the American Heart Association and leading nephrologists like Dr. George Bacris, blood pressure above 130/80 in someone with existing risk factors significantly accelerates the progression towards complete kidney failure. The damage is mechanical and relentless. High pressure shears the delicate cells lining the filters. It triggers inflammatory pathways that recruit immune cells to the kidney tissue, causing further scarring. The tragedy is that high blood pressure is often called the silent killer because it rarely has symptoms itself. You can walk around with a blood pressure of 160/100 and feel perfectly fine, all while your kidneys are being pulverized from the inside out. This is why monitoring your blood pressure is not optional. It is a fundamental requirement for longevity. If you ignore the numbers on the cuff, you are ignoring the slow erosion of your lifespan. Number 3 on our list is something that sounds a bit too simple to even matter, something so basic we often overlook it: chronic mild dehydration. I am not talking about the acute severe dehydration that sends people to the hospital with confusion and collapsed veins. I am talking about this persistent, low-level fluid deficit over months and years. It is a lifestyle of sipping coffee in the morning, maybe a soda at lunch, and very little water the rest of the day. My own father and father-in-law were guilty of this for decades, believing that if they weren't thirsty, they were fine. But thirst is a lagging indicator. By the time you feel thirsty, your body is already stressed. When your body does not get enough water, your total blood volume decreases slightly. That reduction means that less blood reaches your kidneys. In response to this perceived threat, your body activates powerful hormonal systems, particularly something called the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, or RAAS. Now, this system is designed to conserve water and maintain blood pressure in the short term. It is useful when you are genuinely dehydrated, perhaps lost in a desert or after intense exercise, but chronic activation of RAS has devastating consequences. The hormones released by this system, particularly angiotensin II and aldosterone, cause your blood vessels to constrict tightly, including those within the kidneys. That constriction increases the pressure within the kidney filtering units while simultaneously reducing the overall blood flow available to them. Over time, this leads to fibrosis, essentially the scarring of the kidney tissue. The tissue becomes stiff and non-functional. As well as that, concentrated urine resulting from chronic dehydration drastically increases your risk of developing kidney stones. Kidney stones are not just painful, they are destructive. Recurrent stones can cause obstructive damage, blocking urine flow and creating back pressure that destroys nephrons from the inside out. Renowned urologists and hydration experts emphasize that you do not need to drink excessive, uncomfortable amounts of water. The goal is not to have maximum hydration to the point of diluting your electrolytes, which can be dangerous. The goal is to avoid persistent, mild dehydration. This low-grade stress accumulates over decades. Think of it like driving a car with low oil. The engine runs, but the friction is higher, the wear is faster, and eventually the engine seizes. Your kidneys are the same. If you are someone who does not drink much water, tea, or milk, try adding just 2 extra glasses of water a day. See how you feel. Monitor the color of your urine. It should be pale yellow, like lemonade, not dark like apple juice. Get your kidney function checked with your doctor, specifically looking at your creatinine levels and estimated glomerular filtration rate, or eGFR. Simple hydration is one of the cheapest, easiest, and most effective ways to protect your renal health. Now we come to number 4, a topic that generates immense confusion and debate: salt, specifically high-sodium ultra-processed foods. This is where I need to debunk a major myth. For years, the public health message has been simplified to "salt kills your kidneys." But the reality is far more nuanced and fascinating. Salt itself, in isolation, does not directly poison your kidneys in a healthy metabolic system. The damage happens through a more indirect route, one that is driven by your body's hormonal response. Here is what most people miss about sodium and blood pressure. Your kidneys are the master regulators of blood pressure precisely because they control sodium balance. In a healthy metabolic system, the process works elegantly. You eat salt, your plasma volume temporarily increases as water follows the sodium. Your kidneys detect this expansion and then efficiently excrete the excess sodium in your urine. Pressure normalizes. It is a beautiful feedback loop. But in a metabolically unhealthy system, this feedback loop breaks down completely. When you have chronically elevated insulin, which happens with insulin resistance and the regular consumption of refined carbohydrates and sugars, insulin signals to your kidneys to retain sodium. This is a critical insight supported by the work of Dr. Jason Fung and researchers studying metabolic syndrome. Insulin tells the kidneys, hold on to the salt. This isn't a temporary response. it becomes persistent. The kidneys lose the ability to excrete sodium normally, so plasma volume expands and it stays expanded. This triggers the activation of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system again, the same hormonal cascade we discussed with dehydration. The result is a maintained high-pressure state. What this means is that the problem is not just dietary salt intake in isolation, it is hormonal sodium retention driven by metabolic dysfunction. Two people can eat the exact same amount of salt, a teaspoon at dinner, and have completely different blood pressure responses depending on their insulin sensitivity. The person with insulin resistance retains more sodium, their body holds on to more fluid, and they experience higher kidney pressures from the same dietary intake. The person with healthy metabolism excretes the salt effortlessly. Excess sodium causes fluid retention. That extra fluid increases blood volume, which raises blood pressure. Higher blood pressure means increased force inside those kidneys. You are seeing the pattern now. Pressure is the common enemy. But ultra-processed foods bring additional problems beyond just sodium content. They are engineered to drive insulin resistance and systemic inflammation. They contain hidden sugars, refined flours, and industrial seed oils that damage blood vessel function throughout the body, including in the kidneys. As Dr. Mark Hyman has frequently stated, food is information. When you eat ultra-processed food, you are sending a signal to your body to store fat, retain water, and inflame your tissues. It is crucial to understand that sodium sensitivity varies enormously between people, and much of that variation comes down to metabolic health. Some people's blood pressure responds dramatically to salt intake, while others seem relatively resistant. But when you combine high sodium with existing insulin resistance and hypertension, you are creating the perfect conditions for accelerated nephron loss. The average person consumes around twice the recommended sodium intake, and most of that comes from processed food rather than the salt shaker on your table. Bread, canned soups, frozen dinners, and sauces are the real culprits. In a metabolically healthy person, that excess sodium is usually cleared without issue. But in someone with insulin resistance, that sodium is retained. And when retention becomes chronic, the pressure becomes chronic. And chronic pressure is what destroys your kidneys. Therefore, the solution is not necessarily to eliminate all salt from your home-cooked meals, which can sometimes lead to electrolyte imbalances, but to eliminate the source of the problem, ultra-processed foods. By cutting out processed foods, you simultaneously lower your sodium, improve your insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, and lower your blood pressure. It is a multi-targeted approach to saving your kidneys. Moving on to number 5, which for me is arguably the most important factor on this list, poor blood sugar control. Diabetes, particularly type 2 diabetes driven by insulin resistance, destroys kidneys through lots of different mechanisms simultaneously. It is a multifaceted assault on renal tissue. Chronic high blood sugar does not just float around harmlessly in your bloodstream waiting to be used for energy. Glucose molecules are reactive. They stick to proteins in a process called glycation, creating what scientists call advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These damaged proteins are toxic. They accumulate in the delicate basement membrane of your glomeruli, causing it to thicken abnormally. This thickening acts like a clogged filter, preventing proper waste removal. Furthermore, cells within the filter part of the kidney, called podocytes, become injured and die. Podocytes are essential. They are the foot-like structures that wrap around the capillaries to keep protein in the blood. Once they are gone, they do not grow back. The supporting structure of the kidney, the mesangium, expands and becomes dysfunctional, choking off the filter. Now, in the early stages of high blood sugar, kidneys actually increase their filtration rate. This hyperfiltration might sound beneficial, as if the kidneys are working harder to clean the sugary blood, but it is actually a stress response. It is a sign of distress, not strength. The increased pressure and workload accelerate the damage, wearing out the filters prematurely. Eventually, you start seeing proteins leak into the urine. First, it happens in tiny, almost undetectable amounts called microalbuminuria. Then it progresses to larger quantities, macroalbuminuria. Finally, your kidney function starts to decline visibly on blood tests. What makes this particularly relevant to longevity is that insulin resistance, the root cause of type 2 diabetes, develops years before the actual diabetes diagnosis. During that pre-diabetic period, which can last a decade or more, your kidneys are already experiencing the effects of elevated blood sugar and metabolic dysfunction. You are damaging your organs before you even know you are sick. Controlling blood sugar early, well before you are officially diagnosed as diabetic, protects these organs in ways that medications cannot fully compensate for later. Once the structural damage is done, pills can only slow the decline. They cannot reverse the scarring. The key blood test to measure here is your HbA1c, which represents your average blood sugar over the last 3 months. Most doctors can perform this test easily. An HbA1c below 5.7% is considered normal. Between 5.7% and 6.4% is pre-diabetes. Above 6.5% is diabetes. But many functional medicine experts argue that even levels in the high fives can indicate early metabolic trouble. If you want to protect your kidneys, you must address your blood sugar. This involves reducing refined carbohydrates, increasing fiber, engaging in regular physical activity to improve insulin sensitivity, and potentially incorporating intermittent fasting under medical guidance. As Dr. David Sinclair and other longevity researchers have highlighted, maintaining metabolic flexibility is key to preserving organ function as we age. Your kidneys are a mirror of your metabolic health. If your blood sugar is chaotic, your kidneys will suffer. Finally, we reach number 6 on our list. This one requires a bit of nuance because this is where a lot of confusion exists in the fitness and health communities. This is about extremely high protein intake in susceptible people. That word susceptible is really important, and I cannot stress it enough. Let me be crystal clear from the beginning. Healthy kidneys handle high protein diets without issue in general. If you are young, fit, healthy, and using protein shakes to support muscle growth, you are probably fine. There is no evidence that high protein damages healthy kidneys. This is a myth that has been debunked by numerous studies. However, the problem emerges in specific contexts that many people fall into without realizing it. When you consume protein, your kidneys need to filter the breakdown products, particularly nitrogenous waste like urea. High protein intake increases the workload, which raises filtration pressure within the kidney. In a young, healthy person with normal blood pressure and no metabolic issues, this increased pressure is easily managed. The kidneys adapt and handle the load efficiently. But if you add in existing chronic kidney disease or undiagnosed diabetes or uncontrolled hypertension or simply older age, where kidney reserve is naturally lower, then suddenly that extra workload becomes problematic. The mechanism centers again on hyperfiltration. The remaining healthy nephrons compensate for the damaged ones by filtering more blood at higher pressures. What protein does is amplify this compensatory hyperfiltration. Over time, the constant high pressure accelerates the decline of those remaining nephrons. You are essentially asking an injured worker to lift heavier boxes. They will break down faster. As Dr. Gabriel Lyon, a specialist in muscle-centric medicine, often notes, protein is essential for life, muscle maintenance, and metabolic health. We should not fear protein. The issue is context. If you already have compromised kidney function, if you are dealing with uncontrolled diabetes or hypertension, then extremely high protein intake may speed its progression. The key here is matching your protein intake to your actual kidney health status. This is something you must speak with your doctor about after you have had your kidney function measured on a blood test. Generally, unless you have very severe kidney disease, moderate to high protein levels are beneficial for most adults. But if your eGFR is low, your doctor may recommend moderating your protein intake to reduce the strain on your filters. Do not guess. Get tested. Knowledge is power. Now, looking across all 6 of these factors, you should notice a distinct unifying pattern. Every single one of these causes damage through increased pressure within the glomeruli, through inflammation, through oxidative stress, or through fibrosis. Kidney failure is not random bad luck. It is not a genetic lottery that you simply lose. It is the cumulative result of mechanical and metabolic stress repeated thousands of times over years and decades. NSAIDs reduce the protective blood flow, starving the kidney. Hypertension creates excessive mechanical pressure, bursting the filters. Dehydration triggers damaging hormonal responses that constrict vessels. Salt raises blood pressure through insulin-mediated sodium retention in metabolically unhealthy individuals. Diabetes damages the filtration structure chemically through glycation. And high protein increases the workload in already compromised kidneys. Different mechanisms, but the same endpoint. Destroyed nephrons, scarred tissue, and failing function. So, what do you actually do with all of this information? How do you translate this knowledge into action? First, if you are at risk, meaning you have diabetes, hypertension, a family history of kidney disease, or if you are over the age of 60, you need to monitor your health proactively. Do not wait for symptoms. Symptoms mean it is already too late. Monitoring means checking your blood pressure regularly at home, aiming for below 130/80 for most people, unless your doctor advises otherwise due to age or frailty. Or it means getting annual blood tests to check your kidney function, specifically your creatinine and eGFR. It also means getting urine tests to check for the albumin to creatinine ratio. These tests catch early damage when it is still reversible or manageable. Early detection is the single most powerful tool we have. You also need to avoid chronic NSAID use unless it is medically necessary and supervised by your doctor. Remember, these are the drugs like ibuprofen, naproxen, and diclofenac. Explore alternative pain management strategies like physical therapy, heat, cold, or topical treatments. You also need to stay adequately hydrated without obsessing over arbitrary water targets like 8 glasses a day. Listen to your body. Drink when you are thirsty and ensure your urine remains pale. Increase your general fluid consumption throughout the day, especially if you live in a hot climate or exercise heavily. You also need to drastically reduce your ultra-processed food consumption. This single change simultaneously lowers your sodium intake, improves your blood sugar control, reduces inflammation, and helps with weight management. It is the highest leverage action you can take for your overall health. Control your blood sugar early, well before diabetes develops. Work with your doctor to optimize your diet and lifestyle. Avoid extreme protein intake if you already have known kidney disease, but do not restrict protein unnecessarily if you are healthy. Again, your doctor should advise you based on your specific lab results. Just remember that your kidneys are vascular organs. They are made of blood vessels. The same factors that protect your heart and your brain protect your kidneys. Blood pressure control, metabolic health, and reducing inflammation are not separate goals. They are all integrated. When you protect your kidneys, you are protecting your entire cardiovascular system, your cognitive function, and ultimately your whole lifespan. The science is clear. The path forward is clear. The choices you make today, the glass of water you choose to drink, the pill you decide to take or skip, the meal you prepare tonight, these small decisions compound over time. They build either a foundation of robust health or a structure of silent decay. You have the power to choose. You have the knowledge to act. Do not let your kidneys fail in silence. Speak up for your health. Take control of your numbers. Respect your body's incredible machinery. I hope this deep dive into the hidden dangers facing your kidneys has provided you with clarity and motivation. The information shared here is grounded in decades of medical research and the collective wisdom of the world's leading health experts. It is designed to empower you to make informed decisions that could add years of quality life to your journey. Your health is your greatest asset, and your kidneys are the silent guardians of that asset. Treat them with the care they deserve. If you found this video valuable, if you learned something new about how your body works, please consider sharing this message with someone you care about. You never know whose life you might save by spreading this awareness. Together, we can break the cycle of silent kidney damage and build a healthier future for everyone. Thank you for listening, for caring about your health, and for joining me on this journey toward longevity. Stay hydrated, stay active, and stay informed. I will see you in the next video.